What are you doing?
I am so excited that we're doing Wonder Woman today to kick off the DC Filmic podcast.
No, we're doing Man of Steel. It came out first theatrically. That's what I sent you in the email.
Does it look like I got an email? I'm wearing my Steve Trevor jacket. It just came out on Blu-ray, and you know.
No, I get that. It's awesome. She's cool. We're gonna get to there, but we're doing an order of how they came out. So we'll do Man of Steel today, and then we'll get to Wonder Woman.
It's a real good podcast, yeah.
Woo! Hi, I'm Austin James, and this is...
Hi, I'm Raymond Morris, and this is the Real Good Podcast. Welcome. Make yourselves at home. Today we're going to be doing a special segment we like to call the DoubleTake. What's DoubleTake, Austin?
It's kind of like where you saw a movie a few years ago. You might have loved it. You might have hated it. But then you saw it a few years later, and your opinion could have changed, or it could have not have changed. But it's just kind of going back and watching a movie to see if your opinion still holds up on it.
That's true. So we're here to help recommend to you whether you should give a certain movie a second chance. And today's film has a little something to do with a big movie that's coming out later this month. Actually, next month it's coming out. We're doing 4 consecutive shows to talk all about the DC films in the DC Extended Universe, even though it's not called the DC Extended Universe anymore, I guess. So the DC movies, I guess. DC Cinematic Planet, because it's not a universe.
The DC Millennia Universe.
The DC Millennial thing that hates labels, but watch our movies that are connected anyway.
Yep.
We'll put a graphic up to be able to help with that. So, just like the movie that kicked off the universe, or thing, listed below, we're going to start, I guess, with that one, and not the one that comes first chronologically. What movie is that, Austin?
Wonder Woman.
Hey, we're talking about Wonder Woman?
No, we're not talking about Wonder Woman.
What are we talking about?
We're talking about Man of Steel.
Man of Steel. Awesome. So I guess before we get into Man of Steel, what is your history with Superman?
I always grew up with the character since I was like 6 years old. I saw the original Christopher Reeve movie, and I really liked it a lot. I watched it, not a ton of times, but I watched it enough to really enjoy the character, and just always liked him on the Justice League cartoons and everything. So, in every iteration of the character, as my life has continued, I've always liked the character. So, when I heard that they were going to making Man of Steel, I was kind of intrigued to see how it was going to go. And then I'll let you kind of go and tell your history of it, and then I'll tell you my initial thoughts, what I thought of the trailer, what I thought of the movie.
Yeah. So your history is very cheery with the character. I think he was kind of lame for a long time. I'm not going to lie. Even though there is a picture floating around of me when I was like 5 or 6 going trick-or-treating in a Superman costume with a mask. That's strange, but my grandma gave me that. So Grandma Morris, if you somehow figured out how to watch this thing, shout out to you. That was a really cool Superman costume. But like after that, I got like a toy from like Burger King or something from the animated series, and it was like Touchdown Superman. He was just like with like official, like NFL official action, which is dumb. And like I watched the Christopher Reeves Superman a lot later on in life, and thought it was kind of boring, understood why it was a big deal, but I did not believe that man could fly. I believe he could be held by wires in front of a green screen, but that was about it. So I remember watching the first trailer and being very worried because it looked really boring. For Man of Steel, I thought it looked really boring, especially compared to my man Batman. It just seemed kind of like a boring take again, and I was really concerned. But you weren't, though.
No, I like how it kind of had like a hope to it in the trailer, and it looked different. It looked very artistic and different, and you can kind of see like, okay, we're going a complete different route than all these other superhero movies had gone at that point.
Yeah, like Superman Returns. It's like it seemed to ended up being like the answer to that.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And then it kind of did look like Superman Returns because it was kind of the same peaceful Superman, and we were kind of worried. But then the end of the trailer, what I really liked is when he takes off and flies, and it's like a jet taking off. And just from that like 3-second clip of the trailer, it kind of gave you that like the interpretation I got from it is they're going for a Superman that's kind of in a realistic, and like in our world, you know. So because in all the other interpretations of Superman, he just kind of flies up to Lois, and it was like nothing. But if he was actually flying around the world so fast, that would cause like so many jet streams.
His hair would look like mine.
Yeah, it would be, or at least very like
non-existent.
But so I liked the trailer, and I was excited for the movie, and I saw it in theaters twice. I actually saw it on the premiere night, like a Thursday night premiere, back when they used to do midnight premieres. Yeah. And did you?
I watched it on Blu-ray, and I didn't even buy it. I watched it with a friend first, and not you, someone else. I'm sorry, I'm cheating on you.
That's fine.
I remember the trailer worried me so much that I didn't go watch it. But I remember watching it, and like you said, it was unlike any superhero movie I had seen to that point, just visually and everything. So I was a fan. First off, I was a big fan.
So I'll talk a little bit about my initial thoughts of the movie, and you can hit up on yours. Initially, I thought it was awesome. I probably thought it was my second, maybe third favorite superhero movie of all time at that point. And I thought visually it was amazing. I really liked from the opening of the movie until the fight scene in Smallville. Like if the movie just ends there and you put the credits, Man of Steel, and then the second one is the rest of the movie, like that's by far the best, probably my favorite superhero movie. And then after that, it's not bad, but it's not as good as what the first 2/3 of the movie was. I still really liked it a lot. I probably would have given it, coming out of it, I was probably telling you about it. I'm like, this movie is awesome.
Yeah. So. And I liked it. I liked it a lot, kind of for the similar things to what you're saying. But I did wonder, and that brings us to what we're going to be talking about here. Would it hold up? Because I have to give movies time. I really do. And so watching it this second time, would it be as good as I had originally thought it would? I have friends that hated the movie. I had friends that loved the movie like you. And like you, I felt like if you thought it was just a decent movie, you had to defend it to the death, which was really annoying. But going back and rewatching it just like this past week, was this as good? And tried to take a critical eye to it and see what if it was good. And I know you've done that within the past month or so. So big question, does this movie actually hold up? Is it worth taking a second stab at?
When I rewatched it, it's still, like I was saying, would have been my second favorite superhero movie at that point. Now I'd say maybe fourth or fifth, just a mixture of other things that came out since then that I've really liked. And then, and initially I feel like I always, if it seems like with everything, like your initial, when you see anything that generates, especially in media, you either hear a song, and if you really like it, it's instantly the best thing you've ever heard, or if you hate it, it's the worst thing you ever heard. And then after years and years go by, you see it for what it is. And so that's kind of what this was. It's still a very solid movie. The only thing I keep noticing is a plot hole I can't get around, and that is when Krypton's getting ready to explode, and it's happening because the planet's shaking at its core.
Shaking in its boots.
They put the worst people that just got in trouble for treason in a pod that can escape from the planet. So now they're
it's going to a phantom zone. That's scary.
Yeah, but
scary.
So I guess I get that in theory, like they're going to be floating around forever, but maybe they didn't know that it was going to do that when it exploded, that they would be able to get out of it. But still, you would think that like that pod was huge.
Yeah.
So you would think if your planet's getting ready to destroy, A, you keep the criminals there, but B, like you'd maybe think at that point you just start rounding up your best and brightest, throw them in that ship and fly them out.
Yeah, like they freeze them, before they send it into space, into the Phantom Zone.
That's true.
But and I guess maybe this is like a comics thing, so I don't think either one of us have been big comics readers. Except I read that like Superman Red Sun, so like he's communist Superman. But I guess like it's something that harkens back to the comics maybe, and some of you that know the comics a lot better, you can tell us, let us know. But that doesn't make sense. If they're worthy of being put to death in the Phantom Zone to float around for all of eternity, why don't you just do the deed there on Krypton? And then maybe you want to just like, you don't want to bury their bodies anywhere to have graffiti put on later or something. I don't know what like Kryptonian graffiti is, but like if it's as bad as our graffiti, then it's probably terrible, you know? And so like, why don't you ship it into the Phantom Zone so that nobody takes their bodies and turns into a terrible beast? And yeah, that doesn't make sense. I don't.
But that's,
get that.
I mean, that's my only huge issue with the movie. And then there's the other stuff that people talk about, but those aren't really my issues with it.
Yeah.
So, and what were your kind of issues, or did you like it more or not like it as much?
I loved it again, and there was things that came out to me the second time, like a big thing. So, visually speaking, Zack Snyder is awesome. Yeah, I don't think anybody can argue that. You can, but this is the United States of America where we're filming this, and you have the right to be wrong. So, but visually speaking, it's incredible. Where like Krypton is just this intricate, thriving, just like they're advanced, but they're not. You know, you have these weird like the little pin things, like it reminds me of like the thing we had with as we were kids, that you put your hand in there with the nails and it like, you know, you can see the shape of your hand. So like they have this technology that shows like the baby inside her belly, but at the same time he's riding a dragon to work, you know, How to Train Your Dragon 3, The Tale of Jor-El. And as he's jumping on there, and like my roommate said, we were rewatching it, he was like, why did they just watch episode 3 of Star Wars and just take all the cool Obi-Wan stuff? Because that's what he does, you know, he jumps off the side, lands on this dragon thing, and like goes hopefully we can edit that part out.
Nope, keeping it.
Dang it. So but like that's really cool, and it's bright, and I remember the first time thinking it was bright and it was really cool. And then you go to Earth, and the first thing of Earth that you see as soon as the pod lands is this gritty, grimy fishing boat. Yeah. And then he gets these flashbacks to home, and it's like this kind of like gritty, really like grainy film of a close-up of a swing. And then you get like, I remember the one that sticks out to me is like when Pa Kent, after he saves the school bus when he's a kid. Yeah. Not Pa Kent. He doesn't. Pa Kent could fix a school bus. But when Superman saves the bus when he's a kid, and he goes, Pa Kent goes to check on him outside, and he like puts the coffee pot back in the coffee maker, and it's like this really unique angle, and it's just really cool, and it's something you just don't see very often.
You just really like shots in movies of pots of coffee.
Well, duh.
There's a shot.
You guys want some?
This coffee is brought to you by Steel Can Coffee, but we won't tell what you made it with. Yeah, that's right. Steel Can Coffee. We don't tell you what it's made with because we don't have any sponsors.
Now, back to the podcast. So, but what's cool is like Krypton was bright but dark. A lot of the shadows and just blacks tones are just like drawn down really dark. And the planet's being destroyed. Yeah, and so, but then on Krypton, on Earth, Smallville, it's like there's sunlight while there's still grittiness, but it's like there's hope just on the horizon. And it's amazing just visually, Zack Snyder being able to tell the story of like, hey, Krypton looked like it had all of its crap together, but it's really about ready to be destroyed. And then Earth looks like it doesn't have its crap together, but there is hope on the horizon. And that's what Superman brings. If he finds himself, and that's his whole journey. And I love the nonlinear storytelling. It's jarring at times. The movie feels like it drags at times. But the way they tell this story to get the point across that Superman is a beacon of hope, and how he gets to that hopefulness, even in the face of running into so many people that do not want his help, he still helps them. Yeah. And then when Lois Lane is going back and trying to find who he is, at the beginning of the movie, all of these people they're repeating, hey, he couldn't help but save people. He couldn't help but save people. He can't help but save people. And you see that happen over and over again. Yeah. And it's a completely different iteration of who Superman is compared to Christopher Reeve's Superman. But it is, at its core, I would say, an accurate portrayal of the character, and just as a beacon of hope for us as humanity. Yeah. And they do a great job of that. Granted, like color palette wise, there's some points. Why did Zack Snyder choose to do those things he did? Yeah. When he has the famous scene where he's like, "This isn't an S. This is on my planet. Spells hope." And then Lois Lane's like, "Hope starts with an H. You moron. Not an S." But like, why is that color graded green? I don't know. Why do you have to take all the color saturation out of stuff every once in a while? I don't know. But overall, I think it does a great job of instilling hope and telling a superhero story that breaks the cookie cutter mold. And it feels wholly unique for the time it came out. And even still today, I would argue, a little bit. It definitely holds up. Definitely holds up. What are your final thoughts on it?
Yeah, I think it holds up. One final thing I've talked about too that I enjoy about the movie is you take something like The Dark Knight. Dark Knight had really, I mean, what made those movies great is
Christopher Nolan.
It's pretty awesome. Is the fact that in all three of those movies, like the entire cast is just like all on their game. Oh yeah. I mean, like probably I would say the best Alfred. Probably the best Commissioner Gordon. Of course, we'll have to see what happens with the Justice League. And so you have all these good characters. And that's the thing is with those Batman ones, all those really terrific characters you remember are huge heavyweight comic book characters. Yeah. So you just go Commissioner Gordon and Alfred and the Joker. But what I liked about in Man of Steel is, you have your Lois Lane, you have Superman, you have Pa Kent. But then you have all these other, I mean, they may be comic characters, but if they are, they're very obscure. The couple of the scientists and the military personnels. And they're just so good. And when I remember reading an initial review, I think it might have been a John Campea one, but it may not have been. They said that what was really interesting about those guys is, in all these movies, it always seems like when the military first sees all these things, it's like, what are we up against? It's always, or I didn't sign up for this, but you didn't see you're in the military. And
valid point.
But no, they kind of treat it like they're just going through another day. Like, this scientist is going to go interview this alien, like, whatever, I've done this before. Which is kind of cool because because knowing what the DCEU is now, or whatever we want to call it.
Thank you.
Right here. In knowing what it is now, it kind of seems maybe that's what the point is. I mean, the scientist works for Star Labs, so he's probably worked with who knows where the timeline's at, but has he known the Flash? Has he seen Cyborg be made?
Yeah, and
you know what I mean? So maybe that's why he's up to the task for all this.
And they did a good job of world building without slamming you in the face with it, which is something we may talk about later, how other movies did. But and just like to bounce off of that, there's an interview with Zack Snyder where he talks about, like the big complaint was like the destruction of Metropolis, right? Mm-hmm. And he came out and said before the movie even came out, or it might have been just like right after the movie came out. Mm-hmm. He came and he's quoted as saying, and we'll try and link it somewhere, where he says that this is going to be covered in the sequel. This is something we're going to come back to. And then he talks about there's these two invincible beings fighting amongst a very mortal people. And so, like, it's like two human beings tussling amongst cardboard. And so what's that look like when they go no holds barred, fisticuffs, punching at each other? Like, what's that going to look like? It's going to result in a bunch of crap that goes down and a lot of destruction. But it will be covered in the next thing. So it seemed like he had these stories and these things in place and in mind, bouncing off the idea you had. But still told a really awesome story at the end of the day. So my double take on this, it holds up. It's still a pretty good movie. If you haven't watched it, give it a chance. Watch it, especially in preparation for Justice League coming out. What do you think?
My thoughts are identical. It still holds up. It's still a solid movie. If you didn't like it at all when you first saw it, your opinions probably aren't going to change. You're going to see the same thing. But I would tell you to watch it again. And And for the very least, something that gets talked about a lot for this movie, even if you aren't a huge fan of the movie cinematically, if you just want to watch the movie for one thing, that soundtrack is unbelievably
That piano
good.
score is great.
Yeah. So that if you just want to watch, if you're just into music, that's something you can't complain about. It's so melodic and beautiful. And so I'd say the movie's still good. It's still solid. I'd say check it out. And now do you want to tell them a little bit about next week, or just kind of a final sign off stuff?
You know what? So we're going through in order of the release, I guess. And well, we could tell them what's coming up next week, or we could show you. You want to show them? You want to say the magic words? Tell them to roll the clip. Or actually, tell me just put the clip in here. When I edit
Raymond,
it.
roll the clip.
Rolling. Austin, you are 30 minutes late to film the podcast. Where are you? 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 How about that? Wow. Those are some good-looking actors.
I know.
Yeah.
I may not be as good looking as George Clooney, but I know I'm a better Batman.
Amen. There was no credit card there.
No,
None at all. So that is just a sneak peek at the pre-intro scene that will be coming before the podcast next week, that we're talking about Batman v Superman. We're doing a redo. How would you remake the movie? And this will be interesting because I know we have differing opinions on this, how we would redo this thing. So, for the Real Good Podcast, I'm Raymond Morris.
I'm Austin James.
Hey, where can people find you?
I'm on Twitter at 80james24. I'm on Facebook, and I'm on MySpace, but I don't know how to get back into my MySpace account. So if you ever find it, tell me about it, because I can't find it anymore.
And you can follow me at @officialrmorris on Twitter, Instagram. Follow Red Turbo Jacket Productions on pretty much any social media platform except for MySpace. Search Red Turbo Jacket Productions, and you can get an audio version of this as well, podcast on SoundCloud. But make sure you follow and like and subscribe and tell your friends that this is happening, if for no other reason than to laugh at us for doing something like this. So this has been the Real Good Podcast.
Thanks.
See you next time. Yeah, see you next time. But thanks for watching.
But stay classy, San Diego.
It's a real good podcast, yeah. Yeah. Woo!